Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially hit all-time highs. We have, and it is looking beautiful, all right? It is looking beautiful, right? We initially swept all-time highs. We can see, right, the yellow line is the all-time high. We swept it a couple hours ago. Boom, right? Created new all-time highs, instantly sold off a couple thousand. But guess what? It didn't matter, okay? It didn't matter. No structure broke, no nothing. We called it in the Discord. We called it in Discord that, look, although price went heavily down within 1 hour candle, there's no confirmation that we will be continuing to go lower. And then we can see over the next couple hours, we start to creep up, up, and boom, right? We smashed it. We are back at all-time highs. And if we actually look at the daily candle, it is something very, very beautiful. See, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, right? The last kind of highest candle closes we had a couple months ago were at boom, like 106,000 in terms of closing, right? If we take away the wicks, we can see that we had one here, we had one here, practically same price, double top. And then even yesterday already, we had the biggest, candle close, just like $200-300 higher. And then we can see that we closed at practically 109,000 and like $700, right? So it's looking good. It is looking really, really good, people. We know that if we add the global liquidity, it's very, very strong, right? If we add the indicator for global liquidity, boom, here we go. Let's just go back on the weekly because that is what we like to see, right? When we go down, readjust it, we know that it is delayed, right? Every time I talk about this, but it's very, very relevant just in case there's new viewers or just in case you don't understand the first time, right? Last time we had the highs of the global liquidity before they crashed, right? If we take it to the last green candle, we can see it says 91 days. If we take it from the bottom, boom, and to the last red candle, we can see 91 days. And now here's the thing, people, right? This dip over here, this is like the smallest, like little quote unquote dip we had before, huge expansion in terms of global liquidity. And if we actually take it from the bottom to now, right, it is at 84 days and next week will be 91. So, right, what does that mean? Well, I expect overall things to slow down a little bit with Bitcoin, right? It doesn't mean full-on pullbacks going down thousands and thousands of dollars, but it would not surprise me if we just kind of chill near the tops for a couple of days, maybe a week before we expand. Okay, before we expand, because just in terms of global liquidity and the consistency we had with how much has been delayed, it would make sense if next week would probably be the start of the expansion, right? The start of the expansion or the week after that. Now, is there, of course, a chance that we do start expanding earlier? Yes, of course, right? The data is proven that, it's been accurate so far, 91-day delay in terms of, things, but things can always be different. It could always be a couple of days this way, a couple of days this way. It doesn't always have to be 100% 91 days, right? But more or less, we know that the Bitcoin expansion is going to be here, right? It is going to be here, even just in terms of pure technical analysis. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the pullbacks here, right? The fundamental pullbacks, this big support zone that I'm moving my yellow line with, right? We were just sitting there for roughly a week before we expanded. Like we never had anything big. Like we just retested things for a couple of days, maybe a week. We pushed, right? We push up, right? We chill a little bit for a week, and then we push up again. So what does that indicate? Well, it indicates buyers have been taking over, and it has been really strong, right? It has been really, really strong. Like we haven't got any, bigger time frame pullbacks. Okay, so it just shows that we are just on a roll, right? Something very, very similar to me is when Bitcoin started to expand back in October 2023. How for multiple weeks it was just going up, then it was sideways for a couple weeks, but then it just kept going up. And that is kind of what I expect, right? Something like this to be playing out, right? Just a big leg to be playing out over the next couple of months. Okay, because the thing is, right, we are very bullish. The global liquidity is ahead of us by so many days, and we see it, right? We've seen it even on the chart. All right, once again, if I just pull it up, go back to the weekly, right, we can see we are somewhere down here in terms of, catching up with the global liquidity. We still have all of this, right? We still have this whole move to the upside, and we can see, although things do slow down a little bit, right? They slow down a little bit. If we take it, this is technically mid-April. They slow down for roughly a month, but we can see it's already starting to continue to go up higher, which is going to be very exciting for us. It is going to be super exciting. This means the whole summer and fall should be looking fantastic. As of right now, with the amount of data we have, practically up until September, I would say, August, September time is practically guaranteed pumps. Guarantee, right? Does that mean every week is going to be expanding, and pushing up? No. Is there going to be probably a week here and there where we go sideways? Yeah. It's going to probably a small red week here and there. Yeah. But overall, it is going to be very nice. And this, this is going to be the start of the end, in my opinion. Okay. In my opinion, right, with these expansions that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks and few short months, this is going to signal that we are starting, the beginning of the end in terms of this whole Bitcoin journey, of this whole cycle. Because wherever we top out, right, which I think we probably will top out around like 140 to 150K. We could go higher, of course. We'll obviously monitor and update you guys during the moment based on the technical analysis, based on other things that are happening around the world, right? But overall, this is step one, is going up. Then eventually step two is kind of going sideways. And then step three is already entering bear season, right? And for most of us that are holding altcoins, we are most likely going to be looking, for this type of phase once Bitcoin starts slowing down, because that's usually when, something like the Bitcoin dominance starts to go down. We can see if we actually go in terms of Bitcoin dominance, right? We talked about this, how, we had these highs, lows, higher lows, and we're just continuing to go up. There's no indication of slowing down, which is good, right? Which is very good. And once we kind of expand past the 65.5% zone for Bitcoin dominance, we should kind of fly high quickly. Because the last time there was a big pullback, right? Right? It was a kind of a decently quick recovery. Then we went sideways, and then we just kind of kept going up. But I do think the Bitcoin dominance is going to be marching up quicker this time around, right? Quicker. It would not surprise me if within just a couple of weeks we hit the Bitcoin dominance that we want. That's because, the markets are going to be expanding this time. There's going to be more money. Last time around, we were actually bleeding in terms of money and the dominance was rising. This time, we're actually having a lot more money, right? When we go to the total market cap, we can see, right, never really pulled back to our zone, which is fine. But we can see, right, we are above this red box, and the next big zone is just going to be going for the all-time highs. Once we kind of go for the all-time highs in terms of global liquidity, in terms of total market cap, right? Ladies and gentlemen, this thing is going to explode. We talk about how our first destination is going to be 6 trillion market cap. Now, I think that's going to be a little bit too low. I do think we are going to go higher. In terms of something more realistic, I would say, 9 trillion, between like 7.5 to 10 trillion is going to be the area. Now, of course, that is a big area. We got to realize that once we kind of start expanding and moving out, we are going to go very fast, very fast. And you have to realize that there's a lot more countries involved now than there was, just even a couple months ago, right? A couple months ago when we started to expand back in early January, and then we started to expand in late 2024, right? A lot less countries were involved. In fact, this was kind of the start of everything over here, right? This is when Trump won, America started to get involved. So all this time, In between here is when a lot of countries start to get on board. Crypto this, crypto that. This is unbanned. Pro crypto here, pro crypto there. So, I do expect big expansions over the next couple months. We talked about how the stock market and everything is all the way up. It was up at, 124 trillion. I'm not sure what it's at right now, but it did peak at 180 trillion back in 2024, right? And although, that doesn't mean we're going to get there right away. There's what this shows is there's a lot of room in crypto, a lot of money to be made, a lot of, opportunity for countries, for institutions, for banks, for people to make money. So we're very, very early, going up a couple trillion in terms of market cap is not going to be that hard, especially that I do believe that now is going to be the biggest race for accumulating a lot of crypto, getting into crypto, plus, Bitcoin supply shock and everything is just going to shock the world. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. It's crazy times. If we did it, we are here. Hopefully you guys didn't sell a couple weeks ago, right? Not like I was never saying anything about selling back then because I already knew that we were just looking to pull back on the higher time frame, right? On the higher time frame, we're looking just to go down, just to create a staircase type pattern. And you know what? We were right. So yeah, that is a laser. I hope you guys did enjoy. Always stick to the data. I know it's hard, but trust me, it'll get you super, super far. Love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye. Portfolio reviews, economic and global updates and news, frequent up-to-date technical analysis, and a very supportive community. Sell and buy calls and trading education is provided. If that sounds good to you, now is the time to act. Once the markets start moving, there is no I should have, coulda, woulda. Now is the time. If you want to take things to another level, we have the blueprint that covers everything from A to Z in crypto that you need. No fluff, no bullshit, just the most important news, fundamentals, and technicals to have you succeed in these markets.